pivotal in making Indian businesses future-proof by enhancing competitiveness and adaptability in the global market. And with that, we'll be starting off with our teams, the organizers whom we are having today. We are so proud to have both IIM Sirmaur and Jayesh Logistics out here. Thank you so very much once again for being here. To all the members who've taken out the precious time and who are here. We'll be starting off by Jayesh Logistics. BITS is a prominent name in India's logistics and supply chain management sector. Since its inception in 2011, the company has accumulated over 13 years of industry experience. Jayesh Logistics offers a wide range of logistics solutions, including transportation, warehousing, operations, and enhanced customer experience. With a strong pan-India network and specialization in cross-border and transitional road transportation, Jayesh Logistics is committed to sustainable practices and reducing its carbon footprint. As a captive fleet operator with multiple hubs across eastern India, the company continues to expand its reach.
Is success. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the conclave on industry-academic collaboration. Today we gather to focus on the logistic and manufacturing sector with the aim of making business future-proof. We are honored to have distinguished guest, esteemed speaker, and expert from both the sectors who will share their insights and experiences. We have Dr. Praful Agnihotri, Director of IIM Sirmaur. Your presence here today signifies a commitment to fostering partnership that will shape the future of logistic manufacturing. Allow me to introduce the esteemed organizers of this event. Indian Institute of Management Sirmaur, one of the India's premier management institutes, was established in 2015 as part of the government's initiative to expand quality management education, located in the serene district of Sirmaur, Himachal Pradesh. IIM Sirmaur offers a range of programs including MBA and PhD in management. The institute is known for its focus on sustainable development and its collaboration with industry partners to ensure curriculum relevance and practical exposure for students. Jayesh Logistics, a leading player in India's logistic and supply chain management sector, was founded in 2011. With over 13 years of experience, Jayesh Logistics specializes in cross-border and transitional road transportation, offering comprehensive logistic solutions including transportation, warehousing, and supply chain consulting. The company is committed to adopting cutting-edge technologies to optimize operation and enhance customer experience. Memorandum of Understanding between the two organizations, formalizing our commitment to work together towards common goal. This collaboration aims to bridge the gap between academic research and industry practices, ensuring that our educational program are aligned with the latest industry needs and technological advancement. By working together, we can develop a skilled workforce that is ready to tackle the challenges of the future and drive sustainable growth in the logistic and manufacturing sector. As we embark on this journey together, let us embrace the opportunity to learn, collaborate, and innovate. I look forward to the engaging discussions and fruitful exchanges that will undoubtedly emerge from this conclave. Thank you for being here, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring event. Thank you so much.
Very impressive, and we are looking forward to something really special. Well, now that we already know about both the organizations, a bit more about IIM Sirmaur. Well, the Indian Institute of Management Sirmaur is a premier management institution in India, established in 2015. Located in the picturesque Sirmaur district of Himachal Pradesh, IIM Sirmaur offers a serene environment for learning. The institute provides postgraduate program in management and doctoral program in management with a focus of manufacturing tourism and sustainable development. Through collaborations with industry partners, IIM Sirmaur Sirmaur ensures that its curriculum remains relevant and provides students with practical exposure. And with that, let me have the honor of introducing Dr. Prafulla Y. Agnihotri, the Director, IIM Sirmaur, once again. Dr. Prafulla Y. Agnihotri, we would want you to be here. Thank you so very much for coming here, sir. The stage is all yours.
It's a great pleasure to be here for two reasons. Number one, this program that we are planning to host almost for last 1 year has seen the light of the day. And number two, I am back to Kolkata or Kolkata, okay, the city of joy, where I lived for over 10 years and have such nice memories of this city. Ever since I got off the plane, I had become nostalgic. That I remember that old airport without any aero bridges and the way we used to walk. Okay, the way they used to take us to the bus to the airport, and then from all the places, I know I was boring my colleague who was traveling with me by telling her, oh, this is where we used to eat this is where you get this nice food, and so on. Okay, it's a pity that I can't visit IIM Calcutta today because of the short trip and some commitments back home tomorrow. Okay? But I lived in this city, I grew up in this city, and I really loved this city. And even today, the same love continues. Okay. Coming back to this, I'm extremely happy to stand and discuss this with you today and launch the inaugural conclave on logistics. I always say I'm a keen believer on the fact that industry and academia must work together, especially the management education. Management education and MBA colleges are like medical colleges, not like RG Kar, okay, but like medical colleges, like the doctors in medical colleges. They treat patients, they learn from that, and they translate that learning into their classrooms to groom future doctors. We are exactly like that. A professor in a business school must have his association with industry, because unlike pure sciences, in business schools, in management education, we learn from industry and we translate that learning into the classrooms. That's how case studies have originated. What are case studies? Say Jayesh Logistics has taken up a new initiative because of which certain new developments have taken place. Cost of transportation has come down significantly, or carbon footprints have come down significantly. And naturally, we in academics would like to learn about it. We write a case study on that based on the realistic facts and then discuss it in the class. And that's how the students of MBA, future managers, learn. Tata Steel, my friends from Tata Steel are here. Tata Steel, they branded steel for the first time. And that was a big case study. I remember I had taught that case study when I was teaching brand management. Branding of a commodity, steel was considered to be a commodity at that time, and they branded it for the first time, and that was a unique example. Okay. And we wrote a case study on that, and that was discussed in the class. And that's how we study from you. Okay. Initially, when I was in Mumbai, I associated with Tata Group. Tatas were my first client, as I was telling you. I had the honor of working with Indica project when Indica was being planned. Okay. And I keep saying that proudly, that first customer service strategy for Indica was written by me. And then whatever learning I had, okay, and that's what Tatas are, I sought their permission to write a research paper on that. Okay, and I wrote that research paper, and Tatas are Tatas always. Okay, my profound respect for them even today. I was also once a Tata employee. They not only allowed me to use that data, which I had gathered for working on that customer service strategy, but they also allowed me to write research paper, and they also on the other hand said I was to present it in international conference in IIM Ahmedabad, and they said if you want we can sponsor it too. I said you're already done enough. I'm writing all this by data collected from your money. I don't want any more money from you. Okay. And they allowed me. And that's how industry and academia work hand in hand. The knowledge that I gained through that customer service project was enormous. No textbook in the world can give me that knowledge. And that helped me subsequently in teaching the same subject which I used to teach earlier also, namely services marketing, in a much better way. I was a transformed teacher of services marketing subsequently, thanks to the industry. And that's how industry and academia must collaborate. It's not just for the benefit of academia, even the industry gains a lot by that. Unfortunately, in India, there are very few instances where industry has gone to academia for help. Tata is just one example that I gave you, but there are very few as such. But in Germany, we are going to have a collaboration. We already have a collaboration with one of the leading business schools in Germany called RWTH Aachen. It's not just business school, it's a university, and with their prowess in manufacturing management area. We have launched a program on manufacturing management. Okay, and I think that is one of the sessions over here, so I'll not speak much over it. But there I saw one thing and I was shocked. They are the leading researchers for German industries in Germany. Whenever any German industry faces any difficulty, they approach RWTH Aachen. And RWTH conducts research for them. I saw their labs and I was amazed. I was wondering, even some of the private sector entities would have research labs of that magnitude, of that quality. And that's how industry and academia benefit. We have learned little bit, which we would like to make available for you if you need it. Okay? And in the process, both of us learn. We are co-learners in the process and we are co-beneficiaries in the process too. And that's why I always say industry and academia must come together, okay, join hands wherever possible and work together. A small beginning is being made by signing MOU with Jayesh Logistics today. But I know even Ganges, होली गंगा, जहाँ पे इमर्ज होती है गंगोत्री में, इतनी सी रहती है, बाद में इतना बड़ा विस्तृत पात्र होता है. Exactly like that, this is just a small beginning with Jayesh Logistics, and I am confident that this association will grow and both Jayesh Logistics as well as IIM Sirmaur will benefit great way in that. If we could help you, Jayesh Logistics, in some way, I'd be really happy. And once again, I said thank you to you earlier also, but let me publicly say thank you to you for this initiative and reaching out to IIM Sirmaur, okay, and taking up this initiative. You have extended one hand, we'll reciprocate it by both the hands. Okay, thank you so much.
Guru had once said that the three traits of a leader must be insight, integrity, and intrusiveness. And Dr. Agnihotri is just one such person. Let's hear it for Dr. Agnihotri once again. Thank you so very much, sir. And with that, we'll be moving further with our next session, the next part. We've got a very important person in the house who changes the game, scales the next zenith, and raises the bar. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Shri Nirmalya Dev, the Executive Editor, Bigmint Technologies Private Limited.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for having Bigmint here and giving us the opportunity to present our thoughts and insights on this very important topic. Of course, we can't claim to have expert knowledge on the entire manufacturing sector, but we'll be trying to share our perspectives on the steel industry and the challenges confronting logistics and efficiencies in the steel industry in a bid to set the context for the discussion to follow. So, for those who don't know, Steelmint is a market intelligence and price reporting company which specializes in the ferrous and non-ferrous sectors as well as in energy products and commodities. We have clients in India and across the world, and we look forward to very creative collaborations with the industry and academia at every stage of our work. So to start with, of course, to get to the straight to the topic, the service sector's comeback and the manufacturing sector's comeback after the COVID pandemic has seen India's growth, between 15 to, this is, I'm quoting Niti Aayog figures, so it's 15.3% between 2020 and 2022. And the manufacturing sector, which currently accounts for around 15 to 16% of the country's GDP, stands to gain further from the government's Make in India program, Make in India initiative. Of course, there are experts in the industry who feel that as some kind of a recession as set in China. So India can emerge as the manufacturing hub of the world and as the exports hub of the world. So the opportunity for India right now is like never before. And the manufacturing sector is, of course, one of the sunshine sectors of the economy. Now, the logistics sector, as we know, for a country of 1.3, 1.4 billion people, is quite a vast sector, and managing it efficiently, managing it with global standards, at par with global standards, is of course a daunting task. The logistics sector for a vast country like India, logistics costs account for 14 to 18% of the country's GDP, which is very, very high compared to global standards. So over the last 5 years, India has consistently improved its ranking on various global manufacturing performance indicators, logistics, ease of doing business, while rising 6 places to 38 among 139 countries on the Logistics Performance Index. So this of course is a notable achievement, and the technological advancements, the government programs that have been put in place, for example, the National Logistics Policy, the Prime Minister's Gati Shakti Master Plan, and the various other government policy initiatives, policy instruments are really driving the sector. Of course, there is a lot to, lot of distance to still travel when it comes to improving efficiencies in the sector. So just to start this discussion with, I would like to point to one report which was published by Ernst & Young titled India at 100, which estimated that India's GDP is estimated to be around $26 trillion by 2047-48. And the transportation and logistics sector expected to play a crucial role in supporting the country's ambitious growth targets. So, of course, we see that the challenge in front of us is huge, and for such a growing economy, the challenge of ensuring efficiency in logistics is surely huge. The perspectives from the steel industry that I wanted to share with you, and the challenges that confront the industry, the logistical bottlenecks that the industry has to actually surmount, has to actually overcome, will be a kind of a representative example for the entire manufacturing sector. Because considering steel's centrality in manufacturing, which contributes around 2% to the country's GDP, and employs direct and indirect employment to so many people in the country, it forms the bulwark of the manufacturing sector in the sense that it is the mainstay of major sectors of the economy. For example, the infrastructure sector, the construction sector, the automotive sector, the engineering appliances sectors, packaging sectors, defense, railways. So in a sense that managing steel logistics efficiently is one of the keys of ensuring overall efficiencies in logistics. Just to focus on the government's program and the government's priorities and the challenges that have been outlined by the Ministry of Steel. So these are government figures that we are quoting, because we can't claim to have any great qualification on logistics, because we're a market research company basically focusing on prices and market intelligence. So the figures that I'm quoting here are from the government data that we have sourced, from the Ministry of Steel data that we have sourced. So iron and steel, iron in the ore form, of course, steel and iron ore freight together contribute around 12% of the total freight movement in the country. And India's steel sector logistics cost, including inbound and outbound logistics, represents 16 to 18% of total revenue of steel players, which is significantly higher compared to 10 to 12% globally. It has been estimated by several studies that logistics costs in India is one of the highest in the world, which is between, as I already said, 14 to 16% of GDP. Now, the industry, as we know, of course, is divided into the primary sector and the secondary sector with regional clusters of demand and supply. With most plants are located, as we know, near to mines, near to coal mines. And this distribution necessitates significant interstate long-haul movement of cargoes from the east and the west of India to the north of India, for example, to the south of India, where auto and capital goods production clusters, major cities and infrastructure projects are located. So the modal share that the government has emphasized of the outbound steel products in India is skewed towards road and rail with negligible contribution of coastal shipment or national waterways. In India, around 47% of steel is transported by road compared to 20 and 30% globally. The share of coastal and inland waterway movement globally is much higher, around 20%. In context of the Indian steel industry, the large players, mainly the integrated steel producers, on an average move about 60 to 80% of their steel through the rail mode, through their own and contracted stockyards at key consumption centers. The smaller players, on the other hand, rely mainly on road, which constitutes about 80 to 90% of their steel movement, which is a significant factor, in fact. So, according to the Ministry of Steel, transportation of steel by road is the cheapest mode, up to 400 to 500 kilometers, beyond which rail is cheaper. And coastal shipment becomes economical than rail for lead distances which are greater than 1200 and 1300 kilometers. The Ministry of Steel projects that the potential to shift around 20 million tons of steel from road to rail and coastal shipment is significant. And as rail transportation is more cost efficient for distances over 400 to 500 kilometers, so bringing it closer to global benchmarks. So that is the target which is the Ministry of Steel has set for itself. Now to come to the raw material movement, just to give you an idea of the kind of challenge that we are facing. For example, the Indian steel industry today has a capacity of around 172 million tons. And production last year, if my memory serves me right, stood at around 144 million tons. This is actually slated to go up to a level of 255 million tons, according to the Ministry of Steel, by the year 2030. This is only production, not capacity, because the Ministry of Steel has targeted a capacity expansion of 300 million tons. The ministry estimates that in order to produce about 250 to 255 million tons of steel by the year 2030, India would need, India's iron ore requirement, which is the main raw material for steel making, as we all know, will reach a level of 430 to 437 million tons by the year 2030-31. Similarly, coking coal, which is another key ingredient in the steel making process, demand for coking coal is going to reach a level of around 161 million tons by 2030-2031. Similarly, fluxes, dolomite, limestone, all that which are needed for making steel, again, demand for these products which are integral in the steel making process are going to rise to a level of 86 million tons by 2030-31. So the challenges that we're facing right now are already quite huge. And I mean, we can think that by the year 2030-31, when capacities and production are going to literally double, the huge logistical challenges that the country will face and the kind of movement of products of both raw material and steel that the country will face. So this is the kind of challenge that we are faced with, the steel industry and the government. Now, talking about iron ore, I've got a few data noted here. So steel plants, of course, primarily transport inbound iron ore, as we all know, via rail, with less road use and less coastal shipment on national waterways. With approximately 20%, again, Ministry of Steel data, approximately 20% of steel transported by road compared to 10% globally. The share of coastal and inland waterway movement globally is much higher, which is around 25 to 30%. The Indian steel industry predominantly moves iron ore through rail, with large players moving around 90%, while smaller players rely on road transport for 30 to 40% of their iron ore movement. Of course, the government is thinking about slurry pipeline as the preferred mode of transport, but there are many challenges with regard to that, which we will, of course, dwell a little later. So, given that rail mode of transportation is economical for distances greater than 300 kilometers, there exists significant potential of shifting iron ore transportation from the roll mode to the slurry mode or rail mode and coastal shipment. This is what the Ministry of Steel actually has envisaged in terms of raising efficiencies for logistics when iron ore movement is concerned. Now, I will, of course, dwell on the key challenges that the key logistical challenges that the sector faces, because only when we know what the challenges are, we'll be able to, in a position to devise solutions. So number one is insufficient rake availability, as we all know. Number two is lack of connectivity to ports and mines, because this is something which is in fact plaguing the industry for quite some time. The lack of roll and rail infrastructure, as we know, leads to longer lead times and higher first mile costs. Especially most East Coast ports have limited railway connectivity, which causes very high congestion on entry roads, and short haul movements by road increase costs by 200 per ton. So when we are talking about efficiencies and reducing costs, we will really have to think about multimodal logistics and how to best capitalize on that. So the other main challenge which confronts the industry is the lack of coastal shipment infrastructure. We are not in a position right now due to various factors, for example, port congestion, for example, inadequate capacities in ports, for example, roads and other linkage arterial roads connecting major logistics networks to the ports. So there we see that due to different kinds of problems, lack of coastal infrastructure is one of the major reasons why India is currently not in a position to raise its efficiencies in logistics. The other main point is lack of national waterways infrastructure. So as we know that out of 111 declared national waterways, only 35 are technically feasible, but only National Waterway 1 and National Waterway 3 are commercially functional. So out of the 111 waterways, only 2 are commercially functional, while about 35 to 36 of them have been earmarked as technically feasible projects to be developed later. So this is also one of the major challenges of developing inland waterway system in the country. If we compare this inland waterway is one of the main pillars of raising efficiency in the sector, because I'll just give you an example. India, it's quite negligible. It's about 1% of the total ton kilometer, in ton kilometer terms, it's only about 1% of total logistical movement in the steel sector in India. While in the US, it's about 8-9%. In China, it's around 14-15%. And even in other advanced economies, for example, in Europe, in Netherlands, it's close to 40-45%. In Germany, it's higher, it's around 15%. So we see that the efficiency that derives to these countries from the utilization, productive optimization of inland waterways is something which is lacking in India. And this is something which the ministry has also highlighted. The other main thing, as you all know, is the high first mile, last mile costs and handling costs, which of course add a lot of cost to the final product. So this is of course another major challenge the industry faces. Moreover, most Indian steel plants are located inland. If we see in the Eastern Belt, or with the exception of 1 or 2 major players, most of the steel plants are located inland in comparison to, for example, China or South Korea, for that matter. So this increases the challenge of managing logistics requirements, as we can understand, and more than 80% of the total logistics requirements of the steel industry are met through the railway network. And as the sea route can partially be leveraged for 3 steel plants. And this is what the government is saying, but these steel plants have still not been able to utilize or optimize other logistics sources because they have found it economically unviable due to underdeveloped infrastructure. For a long time now, there has been overwhelming dependence of the Indian railways on revenue from freight traffic, especially from bulk commodities, which is quite well known. In other words, the freight cost of moving materials from railways, both raw materials and finished steel, is artificially much higher as passenger traffic is subsidized from freight earnings by the Indian railways. From freight earnings, I'm sorry. Niti Aayog estimates a relative cost disadvantage for Indian steel makers at $20 to 25 per ton of finished steel. This is Niti Aayog's data. The Niti Aayog study, from which I'm taking the data, estimates that the freight cost from Jamshedpur to Mumbai can be as high as $50 per ton in comparison with $34 per ton from Rotterdam port in Europe to Mumbai. Actually, the situation is so bad. So for every 1 ton of steel which is produced, the government is saying that 4 tons of raw materials have to be moved. Now, if you are looking at a capacity of 300 million tons, then I mean, we can calculate how much raw material we have to actually move. So that will be a Herculean challenge, of course. So as I was saying, so if India is doubling its steel production over the next, not even 10, I believe in 5 to 7, 8 years, the logistics requirement of the domestic steel industry will become unmanageable unless steps are taken to increase and improve physical infrastructure, which the government is doing on a very urgent basis. And a shortage of rakes, as I just pointed out, has already started plaguing the steel industry. It has been plaguing the steel industry for quite some time. The national steel policy has underlined this aspect, and the government is thinking of mulling steps to supply more number of rakes. But as you can understand, it doesn't happen overnight, so it will take some time. Now, these objectives remain on paper unless there is freight cost rationalization, which I said that for the railways it's difficult because it's structurally aligned towards subsidizing passenger freight and kind of making up for the shortfall from the commodity segment. So, what are the steps that need to be taken right now in order to provide some relief to the steel industry? Of course, and these are well-known demands. These are demands the steel fraternity are quite well acquainted with. I'm just reiterating those demands. So the first demand is that lowering the freight class of iron ore to 145 currently belongs to 165, where it's higher, and uniform with other freight classes. So this is one demand which the industry has raised. The second demand which the industry has raised is the inclusion of iron ore, coal and coke in the long-term tariff linkage policy of the railways. The third demand is that there should not be, there is no long-term policy on freight structure for short lead traffic to a distance of 100 kilometers. So this has to be resolved, which is why the steel mills are paying higher for the goods that are moved, both finished products as well as raw materials. And removal of route rationalization policy, which of course is a demand that has been voiced by the iron ore miners as well as limestone miners and others. And abolition of long-term policy on freight structure for short-lead traffic, which I already mentioned, is something that has been a long-standing industry demand. Now, the Ministry of Steel also has taken certain steps. I was just highlighting the challenges all the while, but of course, certain steps which the Ministry of Steel has taken needs to be highlighted. So it has onboarded itself. The Ministry of Steel has onboarded itself on PM Gati Shakti, the portal. As we know, it's a mobile application. With the help of that mobile application, about 2,100 steel units across the country have been mapped, geospatially mapped, and including the bigger and smaller players. So everything is mapped, and that information is there. So the geolocation of all the iron ore mines and the manganese ore mines in the country have also been uploaded on that Gati Shakti site. And the Ministry of Steel is in the process of uploading the geolocations of the existing slurry pipelines. In fact, there are 3 right now which are operational, and the laboratories which are functioning in the steel sector. In addition, the Ministry of Steel, in line with the goal of the Gati Shakti master plan, has identified 22 high-impact projects to develop multimodal connectivity and bridge the machine infrastructure gaps. So these projects, in fact, I wanted to show a table, but that will actually carry my speech a little longer, so I don't have time for that. But these 22 infrastructure gap projects that have been identified are in collaboration with different ministries that the Ministry of Steel is trying to solve the infrastructure gaps in these segments. So first of all, there are new railway lines that need to be, existing lines that need to be enhanced and developed, or there are new lines in states, especially in Odisha, in Jharkhand, in states like Andhra Pradesh, Goa, Maharashtra, where these lines will have to be extended for seamless transportation of raw materials. So this is one this project has been carried out in collaboration with the Ministry of Railways. The port infrastructure upgradation projects that the Ministry of Steel has identified, especially for Paradip, for Dhamra, for other ports in the eastern part of the country. This project is happening in collaboration with the Ministry of Ports and Shipping. In collaboration with the Ministry of in collaboration with the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, the Steel Ministry has identified about 5 to 6 projects for laying natural gas pipelines in the country. This is a very important part of logistics because the ministry itself, the government itself estimates that demand for natural gas in the country is going to go up to a level of 20 million standard cubic meters per day by the year 2030, 2031. So this laying of the natural gas pipelines is a very significant aspect, also related to sustainability, which I'll talk about for just for 1 minute. And there are other projects where the infrastructure gaps actually have been highlighted, and which the ministry is trying to plug through collaboration with other ministries. In terms of cost optimization, which is one point that we are really concerned about today, the Ministry of Steel has said that total logistics costs of the steel sector is estimated currently, and I'm quoting 2023 data, so it's not very dated. So a total logistics cost is currently stands at around 60,000 crore. Of which 15 to 18% of iron ore steel sales. So this comprises 15 to 18% of total iron ore steel sales in the country. So what are the interventions that the Ministry of Steel is thinking in order to drive cost optimization? So number one is the iron ore modal mix, enhancing iron ore through slurry pipeline, which is currently about less than 3%. To 15% by 2030-31. We know that companies like IIM India, companies like JSW Steel are laying down slurry pipelines. Though there are challenges with this. The number one challenge is, of course, the right of way, because you need to give the slurry pipelines right of way through, along the railway tracks, which is something which is not there. Of course, expediting clearances for pipelines also is quite time-taking in the Indian context. The other problem with pipelines is that of water recyclability. And so these problems are there. So these will have to be ironed out if the slurry pipeline infrastructure really has to grow, and if the government's target of achieving total iron ore movement of 15% through slurry pipelines by 2030-31. The second very important focus will be on changing the development modified BF-NSM wagons, which are bogie flat steel wagons, which are there in Europe, which are ideal for moving steel of different dimensions, like steel coils, white plates, and so these wagons are not available with the Indian Railways right now. So there has to be some kind of technological upgradation if there's more steel has to be moved through the railways. The third intervention that the ministry is really thinking about is the increase in coastal movement for steel, which I already said that the ministry is thinking about coastal movement. But the problem with coastal movement is that there are many small steel players in the country, and there are no big ticket sales or big ticket cargoes are not there every time. So the very small cargoes need to be often moved from one place to the other. So here the problem is that for mainly the major coastal areas, for example, in Eastern India or in Western India, vessels are available at the supramax level of 75,000 DWT and around that. So for very small ticket cargo movements, these vessels are not ideal. So that is one of the problems. The other problem which I highlighted was the port congestion aspect, which still needs to be resolved. Of course, the capacity enhancement and adding more number of berths is one point that the government has laid emphasis on. And of course, the private jetties in the inland waterway system also, we have seen that exploration is going on. The government is incentivizing through PPP mode the development of more private jetties, and so certain incentives are being given to the private sector to invest in private jetties and to switch over to more efficient forms of movements of raw material and steel. The target is to increase steel and iron ore national waterways share, both of steel and iron ore, from which is currently 1% to a level of 5% through the national waterways. And the most important thing is that the government has already identified 23 sites for development of national logistics parks, which are in the works. So the ministry projects basically an annual savings of 7,000 to 8,000 crore per year if these steps are undertaken, and if the implementation happens properly as and when expected, the ministry expects a cost savings of 7 to 8,000 crore annually. And of course, the focus, as I said, so before concluding this context-setting speech, the focus will be on sustainability moving forward, as we know, because without a major shift in fuel, road transportation will remain very highly polluting, as we can understand. And so the focus will be on slurry pipelines, the focus will be on inland waterways, which are much less polluting. Number two is the focus will be on laying more of natural gas pipelines in the country to assist the secondary steel sector, because we know that the capacity for direct reduced iron in the country, which currently stands at around, according to Bigmin data, it currently stands at around 60 to 62 million tons, with production last year of around 51 million tons. That's going to go up to a level of 85 million tons by 2030-31. And it's a highly unsustainable sector because it's based on thermal coal, where the emissions intensity is quite high. So the laying of national gas pipelines will be very essential in order to drive sustainable development of the sector. So total savings of 7 to 8,000 crore, that's what the Steel Ministry envisages through a slew of reforms and measures and policy programs that the ministry has identified, has highlighted, and is in the process of implementing. So that was actually the context-setting speech that I would, in fact, I had requested Manish sir to let me make, so that we can have a seamless discussion going forward, and we know what the main points are before us and what to discuss about. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. Thanks again.